and highlight reel goals to gritty defense and epic saves, we're covering it all. So lace your skates up, grab your favorite jersey, and get ready to dive deep into the world of hockey. This is the five-hole where every shot counts and every story is a game changer. Let's drop the puck and get started.
Welcome to a special, quick little edition of the five-hole this offseason. Not too eventful of a one so far. My name is Brandon. I'll be your host tonight, and with me tonight, you got Aaron as well. Aaron, how are you doing out there?
All right. I mean, I saw Ryan Lindgren got signed for the 1 year, so that was interesting. But the puck off season is weird. It's like really nothing going on.
Yeah. So talk about that was going to be one that I brought up tonight was Lindgren signs it. It was a 1 year, $4.5 million deal with the Rangers to avoid an arbitration hearing. How do you actually feel about that? You think it's a solid signing? 4.5 mil for 1 year seems a little hefty, though.
I think because of the shortages of defensemen that we don't have, I think they were just like, all right, let's just do a prove it deal because he's a great guy. He's a not bad defenseman, but he gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
He takes way too many pucks for the team, which I, of course, have said on Blue Shirts Banner, it's great when Jacob Trouba does it. But when Ryan Lindgren does it, he just gets mauled, or every other opposite defenseman attacks Ryan Lindgren. So this is fine. I mean, every Rangers offseason reporters or podcasts were talking about signing for 3 or 4 years. That's fine. By that time, I think he'll be like 31, 32.
Right.
Because they didn't want a Dan Girardi happening, so like contract-wise. So that's whatever. If he leaves next year, he leaves. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah. It seems like I wouldn't say a solid contract, a solid signing. Like you kind of mentioned, it brings that little bit of like just depth that the Rangers might need for the next couple seasons at least, which is always a good thing. It's always nice to have that little bit of depth at your defensive position, especially because you don't know what is gonna happen defensively for teams like that. I mean, you look at the Blues and what their situation now is, or possible situation with Torrey Krug, with his arthritic stuff flaring back up, and he might have to miss the whole season. So what do? They go out and sign Ryan Suter to a 1 year, $775 million or $100 deal.
What? You got Ryan Suter?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
The Central Division star who's only played with the Dallas Stars, the Minnesota Wild, and the Nashville Predators, and now has signed with the St. Louis Blues for 1 year. So he sticks in the Central Division there, at least there. So I mean, I wasn't super upset with it. He gets 1 year, $775 deal with like 2.2 and like initiatives basically. Like if he meets certain plays so much. He's a 19 minute per game guy. So it's something that I think the Blues needed. The Blues could use. Just because it adds that, like you said, a little bit of depth there, and it's at a cheaper cost than some of the other guys out there who are looking for not looking, but you could sign for a 1-2 year deal where you're getting a veteran guy, a little bit of veteran leadership with a young Blues core. It adds that little bit of this is kind of this is a good thing, I think.
Plus, I mean, aren't you guys in like a salary cap restriction in St. Louis because of the previous signings?
They have like
money wise.
I thought I saw 7.5 mil remaining in their deal, and that's not if Krug doesn't go to the long-term IR. If that's the case, then they'll get his contract there too. And that might be where the 7.5 mil is that they've already like predetermined that he's not going to be out. He's going to be out for the rest the season. Because they said 6 to 8 weeks was the time frame on his on an update on his condition and whatnot with his foot. He was trying to get it healed himself. If not, then he's gonna have to have surgery. It was gonna put him out for the rest of the season. So yeah.
Well, speaking of signings, so Leon Draisaitl, what's going on up there? I mean, Stan Bowman the new GM for the Oilers. I feel bad for Oilers fans because Oilers have been really bad since Glenn Saylor GM-wise,
Yeah.
and this guy does not make it any better. So I'm just curious, like, your thoughts with Leon Draisaitl, if they're going to re-sign him. Because I think I saw a rumor that he wants either 13 or 13.5 a year, but then McDavid's contract comes up next year.
Right. I haven't seen how much he was wanting for his deal, but I did see that they are planning on trying to keep him in Edmonton, which I was really surprised at when I saw it come across the feed the other day, and I was like, that doesn't make, because they were just talking about how he's not going to be there. This is it for him. He's done in Edmonton after this season. He's going to play out his contract and this and that and whatnot. And you come around the next, a month later and be like, nah, we actually might stay in Edmonton. It might not be a bad idea to stay here. You're playing with one of the best hockey players to ever to play the game. So why not? The only problem is that you're going to have, like you said, Connor McDavid's contract that's going to come up in a year or two. And then you're going to have all that money on Draisaitl already. Who else you're going to have to let go? You mean you can't keep everybody.
This is true. I mean, I know McDavid, the last contract he did, he was all about the Benjamins.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. He'll definitely want that next year. So it's kind of interesting. I think Draisaitl, though, was probably looking at what the construction of the team was going to be before Stan Bowman showed up.
Right.
And it's actually a pretty decent team. But I think if Draisaitl and McDavid are going to get signed heavy money like everyone in Toronto, they have to get rid of Darnell Nurse. Because that's 11.5 he has, or
something like that.
11.8, and that's too much for a defenseman.
Yeah. How do you feel on you talk about signings in the offseason? That's really the big thing, right now with what's going on. About Martin Necas staying in North Carolina, getting out of the arbitration hearing as well, signing a 2-year, $13 million deal to stay in Carolina. As a Rangers guy, how do you feel about that? You excited to see him stick out in Carolina?
I mean, from a Carolina perspective,
it's a great thing.
That's great because they couldn't keep everybody. As you saw, everyone was really leaving Carolina.
Yeah. Well, and they lost Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov went to the KHL. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yes, and I'm okay with that because he's been declining a little bit ever since the Cup run. Yeah. And as you could tell during the trade deadline, nobody wanted him. Like Washington was like, listen, we will pay this much to get him off. And he was the highest paid player in the AHL since Wade Redden when he was with the Rangers. So that's fine for him. I feel like a lot of players that are declining go back to the KHL, or if you're Ila Kovalchuk, you go to the KHL.
Go back and forth.
Go back and forth a little. But no, that's cool. As far as like for the Hurricanes, it's really not bad for them. That's like you talk about Draisaitl. I believe when Carolina's season was over, I believe Necas' dad was saying that it was going to be over in Carolina for him.
Yeah,
that they were going to go into free agency, see who they wanted. I think he was restricted.
And he was
I didn't think he wanted to go there or stay there, I should say.
Yeah, I was surprised. No, I shouldn't say surprised, but that one kind of, I guess caught me off guard a little bit because it was the same deal with Draisaitl, like almost that everything pointed to him leaving Carolina and either being traded or playing out the rest of his contract, however much was left of the contract, the 1 year I think that might have been left on his deal. And everything pointed to him leaving Carolina, not being part of the Carolina Hurricanes. Because there was rumors of him going to, coming to St. Louis. There was rumors of him going to, was it Colorado? Was another one, I think. But it wasn't Carolina. So I think this is a good thing for Carolina that they're able to keep their guy. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Kuznetsov decided not to stay in the NHL and to actually go to the Continental Hockey League over in Russia. I think that had to played some part in it.
Yeah, I mean, I know they were pretty salary cap restricted too, the Hurricanes. So I guess Nico's like, listen, I guess I'm your best option. You can give me whatever, and they probably just dumped whatever money they had
Yeah.
because losing Bray Shea and
Jordan Stahl is retiring. I don't know if you saw
no,
that.
he's not.
Yeah,
Is he
signed.
really?
He signed a
Oh
1
my
year.
god!
I thought I saw he signed a 1 year or 1 day contract with was it the Hurricanes?
It would have to be either them or the Penguins. The
I
team
think
that
it was.
drafted him.
I think it was the Hurricanes. He signed a 1 day
interesting.
contract with the Hurricanes to retire.
So that's two Stahl brothers that are out of the NHL. Because I know Eric Stahl is getting his jersey retired this year from Carolina. I thought Jordan Stahl was still playing. Oh wow, because they had him as the fourth liner in a lot of the projections that I saw.
Yeah,
which is crazy for a captain. Put him all the way down there. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know if you saw. I saw that today too, and I was looking at stuff to, for the show today, and I was like, oh, like that's interesting. And Jordan Stahl is a guy who's been in the league for seems like forever.
Since 2006, I believe he was in that draft class.
He's probably one of the last ones in that draft class too. I don't imagine that there's too many left. He was drafted second overall by Pittsburgh, second or third overall.
Yeah, second overall.
It wasn't
Claude Giroux, I believe, is still playing. If he's still with the Senators, it would be Claude Giroux.
That's right. He was the later pick in that round because I was looking at that draft today. I didn't know how much time we were going to have for today's show, and I was like, oh, we could do a redraft of that draft class because it was like Eric Johnson went number 1. I don't think that would happen anymore. That was
I would say
Jonathan Taves would go number 1. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was my immediate thought, and I was like, Jonathan Taves in a blue note. That would have been fun.
But would he win you any cups? Is the question.
I don't know. Probably not. Probably not, because it went. Eric Johnson was 1. I think it was Jordan Stahl 2 to Pittsburgh. Jonathan Taves was 3 to Chicago. So that was your 1, 2, 3 of the 2006, NHL draft.
This is going to sound weird, but I would actually pick Claude Giroux over Jordan Stahl for 2.
That's fair.
Just because I feel like at that point in time, he had a better career and he was in Philly, so it would have still been pretty good for Claude Giroux. And even with that Crosby Malkin, era around there, I think that would have been a perfect fit.
Yeah. This would be interesting to see, like somehow. I would say how some of these teams, there was a lot of movement this year. I thought when you come to free agency and some trades, you get to see Steven Stamkos and the elderly line of the Nashville Predators now. With Ryan O'Reilly's still there too, Steven Stamkos. Who else was it? There's another older
Jonathan Marchessault who played with him in Tampa.
Yeah.
And I heard with that rumor that he actually called Stamkos and was like, "Hey, where are you going?" And when he said Nashville, he was like, "All right, I'm going with you."
That makes sense, actually. That makes a lot of sense.
And that deal's better than what the Lightning were trying to give him with that 8 years, $4 million a season.
Yeah.
No. I don't need to do that. But there is a guy who it's not a signing, but we're not sure, is Patrick Laine. And he does want a request. So I'm not sure what team would fit with him.
We'll take him. I mean, what do we got to lose?
I mean, you'll have him for 2 years. He's pretty much I feel like he's a one-dimensional guy. Like, yeah, he can score. Nothing wrong with that, but he really can't do anything else.
Yeah, he's not a very good two-way. Doesn't seem like a very good two-way player. We already have that issue where there's a lot of fans in St. Louis that don't like Jordan Kyrou for that reason, because he'll score 30 goals, but he doesn't play very well on the back check.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well that would go over with having 2 guys like that on the same team. With
Laine, you're getting like 40, maybe 45 goals.
Yeah.
Depending on that offense.
Right. Yeah. And it's something that I'm not saying the Blues could use, because they signed 3 guys who are going to hopefully boost their offense this year. And, was the Radek Fosca. They got in a trade, and then I'd say sign. There was more trades. They got Radek Fosca, Pierre, both of the Joseph brothers, as well. The one he played in Pittsburgh, in that Kevin Hayes deal, and then he got one out of the other one out of Ottawa too. So all those guys scored 32 goals, or not all of them, but they scored 32 goals combined last season. So it'll be a little bit of help, hopefully.
Just a little.
Yeah, not a whole bunch, but and whatnot. Trying to see if there's any other like big signings and whatnot that we could talk about. There was one in Minnesota. So Minnesota signed their younger defenseman, Brock Faber, to an 8-year, $68 million contract this past Monday, which begins at the 25-26 season, so next year as well.
That was their almost rookie of the year, right?
Yeah, he's 21-year-old defenseman. He played in all 82 games as a rookie last season. He had 47 points, 8 goals, and 3 assists, and led all rookies in ice time per game at almost 25 minutes, 24 minutes, 58 seconds. And assists, he was tied for second in points, I guess, on the team. Or in rookies.
So why is it that he plays 82 games, but everyone in Jersey is complaining about Luke Hughes, who's getting exposed second half of the season? Like, oh, he's just playing too many games that he should. But this kid's doing it in Minnesota, and he almost wins Rookie of the Year just because they had to give it to Connor Bedard. But still, that's insane. Well, for Minnesota, though, they have to do that because their salary cap is not very good. They have 11 guys, I think, with no movement clauses or trade clauses. So that in itself is just bad. So they need something to bring people in the seats.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta find a little bit of something to do there. There was another guy with Montreal who was signed to. Is Caden Gall? Caden Gall? I'm not trying to say his name right. But he signs a 6-year, $33.3 million deal with the Canadiens. Another defenseman. This new contract begins in the 25-26 season. He had 22 points last year, and it's an average annual value of $5.55 million. So 22 points, 6 goals, 16 assists, and he ranks second for the Canadiens with 178 blocked shots, and third in time on ice with basically 21 minutes of ice time.
Sheesh.
Yeah. 178 block shots.
Sheesh. Yeah, the problem with the Canadiens is they also signed their third overall pick that was in Lafreniere's draft. I can't think of it now because I'm at work, so I apologize. But
the Arbor?
Yeah, it's like Jurovsky. However you want to say it.
I am not going to be able to pronounce this. X.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It's a hard one.
I'll call him JJ.
Yeah, it starts with an X. The last name starts with an X, and that threw me that's we're out of here for that one.
Yeah. So that's gonna be a problem because I believe his AAV is $9 million a year, and Lafreniere was the first overall pick, so he's gonna be looking at his chops. Yeah. Like, oh, he's getting 9. I want like 9.5, maybe 10. So that's gonna be an interesting offseason for us next year. But what were your thoughts though on the Jacob Trouba when all that went down and then kind of died out a little bit? Like, were you more for Chris Drury? Like, hey, they need salary cap. We need salary cap. Or are you more on Jacob Trouba? Like, listen, I've been loyal. I'm doing, I'm the captain,
right?
And then all that.
You're talking about them not like with his wife was just started a residency or something like that, nursing school, and all that stuff in New York, right there too. I don't know if that's hard because you have to do what's better, that's going to make the team better at the same time. Keeping a guy that like Jacob Trouba, who's just eating up salary cap space, for the Rangers right now, it's hard to. But then again, you look at it, and NHL teams move their captains more than anybody. They'll throw them all around. They did that. So it's hard to. I mean, I get you have that little bit of like, yeah, he has been a Ranger for a little bit. His wife's just getting started, fiance, getting started residency here and whatnot. But again, at the same time, you have to look at the betterment of the team. You have to see what is out there that can help the team in the future, not be handicapped by, I wouldn't say a bad contract, but an aging player.
Yeah. I didn't mind. I think because what happened with Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah.
I think Jacob Trouba was like, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
So, but because that was a necessary move. But yeah, I just had to get your thoughts on that one. But do you think Joel Quenneville gets a job since Dan Bowman got a job with Edmonton?
Yeah, I thought it would be the other way around. I thought Quenneville would get a job before Stan Bowman did.
I thought he was going to get Columbus, and then they hired a bridge guy essentially.
Yeah,
I think he's just there just to develop the youth.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? Is it this Eveson? Yeah. Dean Eveson was hired as the Blue Jackets head coach last week, a week and a half ago or so. It doesn't sound like they're they're fully committed in, but I think you both of these teams look at the same thing. If you look at the Blues and you look at the Blue Jackets, I know they're like two different spots, but they went with a guy who you don't necessarily know about. The Blues went with Bannister, who's been working with the AHL guys, a lot of the younger development stuff, which is the direction the Blues are going right now. Columbus is in that right now. Columbus is dug into. We just have to develop our youth at this point. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, we might not be a great hockey team next year, but you still have to, you still got to be a competitive team at the same time. So it's hard to, it's just one of those things. Yeah, he probably is just going to be, an in-between guy, unless they just happen to be really successful. Then he's probably going to go to a team like Vegas or Boston within 4 years. So,
I mean, there's been a lot of coaches that have tried to do that. Like Sheldon Keefe came up from the Montreal Alouettes, or Toronto Alouettes, sorry. And that we also happened there in Toronto. Mike Babcock left Detroit. I forgot what's his name.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He only lasted a couple seasons.
And he was doing the same thing because he was bringing up all those guys. He came up, and then they missed the playoffs. So that's kind of a sticky situation for coaches like that.
So I just looked into this a little bit here. So he actually coached the Minnesota Wild to a 147, 77, and 27 record in 251 games over parts of 5 seasons from 2020 to 2024.
He was fired mid-season last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a pretty solid record, actually.
For that Minnesota team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, they were a pretty dominant team they maybe not, did so well in the playoffs, really. The first round first round exits for the most part.
Ever.
It seemed like every year they, no matter how good of a team they had, they could never get out of the first round. They're like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Western Conference, basically.
For real.
But it's that's pretty solid. He's ranked 5th among active NHL coaches with 200 or more games with his 6.639 points percentage. It's ranking 5th among NHL. So maybe this isn't such a bad deal for Columbus. Minnesota was a younger team. You'd say 2000 to 2020. They were probably a younger team at that time. Probably got rid of a lot of their older guys. And Parisi, Parisi still would have been there in 2020.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah, him and Suter would have been there still. Yeah, something like that around that time. But they have signed a couple guys. They signed Kent Johnson to a 3-year, $5.4 million deal. And then Kent Johnson is 21-year-old forward. He's 16 points last year in 42 games. But then he didn't play after February 28th because of shoulder surgery. And then they also signed Kirill Machenko to a 3-year, $11.5 million contract as well, which has an annual value of $3.85 million on the year. He's 24, and he's set his NHL career highs in 23 goals, 19 assists, and 42 points in 78 games last season. He scored 21 goals as a rookie in 22-23. So maybe they'll get some things turned around in Columbus at some point.
I mean, Adam Fantilli is a good player too.
Yeah.
I know he was hurt for a little bit his rookie year, but I think they have a pretty decent core for young guys. And I mean, if Patrick Laine plays, then maybe that's a good thing. But I just don't feel like he's gonna play for Columbus this year.
No, from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like Laine is going to be in Columbus. Everything that I've seen so far at least shows that he's not going to be in Columbus, which makes sense. I know he just got out of the what's it called? The NHL has basically like the substance abuse stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know he got out of that. He's not in that anymore and whatnot. So we'll see what Columbus does. Maybe we can. Dogs are barking. I apologize. Hold on. Anyways, maybe I'll do some little bit deep dives into these teams. Do like shorter things on each team. That'd be cool.
This is definitely going to be a good season, though. That's for sure. A lot of good free agents with certain teams and whatnot. So I think it's going to be a good year. And Vegas is finally going to go down because they lost a lot of key guys.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. It's only about a month away or so, about 30 days
close.
before.
Yep, real close.
So it won't be that much longer. You know, they're already doing the 32 for 32 on NHL.com and whatnot. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So it'll be here before we know it. And next thing you know, we'll be in the playoffs and talking trade deadline stuff and whatnot. So it'll be a fun time. But we're gonna I'll let you get back to. Have a little bit of your break here as well. So thank you for joining in tonight. I definitely appreciate it.
Yep, and don't forget, subscribe, download, do whatever you need to do for Variety Sports Network. Hit that little bell button because it's not just the 5-hole. We got Next Left Turn coming back. I think we're off the 2-week break. 7-Thing Stretch was last night.
Yes.
We got Saturday Showdown. So everyone just check that out.
Yep.
Don't make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, tons of stuff all the time. So make sure you check it out, and we'll see you on the next episode of the 5-hole at some point. You never know when we'll pop up. So thanks for tuning in. Definitely appreciate it, and enjoy your weekend. Happy Friday.